Excellent. Hi, everyone. I'm Nihat Gurmen. I'm with the Dexalot team, and I'm one of the co-founders, and my other co-founder
and
is
I'm Cengiz. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for coming.
So today we are going to talk about the price discovery we introduced more or less to the crypto in space. It's a new fair way of listing the new project tokens, and we would like to discuss about the motivation we had and the various algorithms we considered, and then the final one we settled on. So let's discuss about motivation first. If you look at the price listing for project tokens, there are two main algorithms used in the market currently, right? So the first one is based on AMM listings, and there are a couple of key characteristics. Am I blocking or good? Okay. Key characteristics. The typical price action you see with any of the AMM listing is something like those red curves, right? So initially, the way the AMMs work, it's based on the constant product formula. So at the start, the price is very low, and everybody's trying to get in as early as possible to get as many tokens as possible at the cheapest price, right? So with that logic, the technology has an advantage. So the bots come into the picture, and they try to load on the tokens as cheap as possible. And then another feature of the constant product formula, with that buy action, the price starts rising, and the regular trader starts buying into it. The price rises even more, and at one point you reach a peak point, and the demand ceases to exist, right? So at that point, the sell side starts taking over, and the price literally crashes. And if I can show you countless of examples of this one, but this is just one of them. Which project it is not important, but every one of these kind of follow the same trend. Another option is a typical liquidity bootstrapping pools-based listing. And in those cases, the sellers and buyers are not acting simultaneously on the token exchange. And following the same constant product formula, during the buy action, the price starts rising. At one point, the demand ceases to exist, and then the sell action takes the price down, right? So in this one, I'm showing the seller side of the equation, but there's a left side to this equation that shows the rising part of the red curve, right? So our alternative price discovery mechanism relies a little bit more on the supply and demand, right? So it's trying to bring the buyers and sellers at the same time to exchange the assets and create a fair environment to set the price of the token that you're trying to exchange, right? And it does that essentially taking technology part out of the equation. So you're not giving special advantage to people with technologically savvy people or bots. You don't give the advantage to them, right? So it's a little bit more fair from that perspective. And it leads itself to more or less like a auction type of environment where buyers and sellers enter the action at the same time. So when you look at it from an exchange perspective, it's an order book. The only difference is in this methodology, the order book is not matching, right? So it's a crossed order book at this point, right? So buyers enter their buy orders, sellers enter their sell orders, and you create a non-matching crossed order book that will eventually match and allow the assets to be exchanged, hopefully at a fair price. So immediately certain key questions pops into mind, right? So what should be the match price? What should be the match quantity? What kind of different algorithms we can have in this process? and which ones would favor sellers, buyers, or which one would be fairer to the overall, both sellers and buyers. So take a look at this one where we have 4 sell orders ordered by their prices, same on the buy side, right? So just take a look at it and see what would be the match price for this, what would be fair. Like from a first look, I know it takes a little bit of time to get used to these order books, looking at this. So it may not be immediately visible to you, but this is the lowest sell price, which is the top of the order book, and this one is the highest buy side, right? So we are going to match those two. They are the 2 most obvious candidates. And any guess, like what would be the match price?
From our audience, anybody?
Just throw numbers. Yeah, why
100.
not, right?
So if we do 100, what about the seller? So he sells it at 100. The buyer buys it at 100. So the buyer might complain, say, hey, why am I not getting a better price? Right? So that's a conflict. Yeah.
Just to give an idea, just to help to guide the discussion, right? So take a look at this one from, too many. Yeah, here. Maybe it's going to be easier for you to guess if you put it in a supply-demand context, right? So these are the sell-side prices. The horizontal lines indicate the quantity. It goes up. And this is the demand part for the buyers. When you have it like that, obviously, as soon as you bring the supply and demand to the picture, you need to leave it to the Wall Street professional here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a chemical engineer.
Thank you, Nihat. You're too kind. So, yeah. So believe us, really. When we were faced with this problem, we were kind of silent like you were, right? So how do we do this? And we all started, throwing ideas, brainstorming. What do we do? Do we do 104 and match it with 1? Just favor the seller, for example, right? The seller sells at 104. The buyer gets his price, but he doesn't complain. Or will he? But in this example, as you can see, the quantities are perfect. You can have the buyer at 104 at 10,000 and seller is only 10. That's another dilemma that we have to, a problem that we have to solve. And one price that 104 will get with the, let's say, at 1, let's say, and then how does he will get a different price if it matches with the second order. So that's another problem, right? So when we started getting into that, we needed help. We knew that we needed help. And then with Gun's help, we contacted 2 scholars from Cornell University, Maureen and David. We were hoping that they will be here, but unfortunately they couldn't make it. So they came up with this demand-supply curves that you potentially, we exhaust the quantities, and then we will have a matching price between the 96 and 100, which will be 98. And everybody will get the same price. And the matching quantity will be 30. Yeah, he's better at clicking than I am. So, in other words, we still match the 104 with 1, but at a price of 98. And then we match 103 with 95 at a price of 98. Same thing with the third one. But we don't match the last. Why? Because the last one has a buy price of 95. He's saying that I will not buy anything more than 95. And our auction price is 98. As a result, he doesn't get it because he didn't want to pay more. Same thing with the seller at 105. He said that he only wants to sell 105 or more. And because of our auction price 98, he's not getting it. So what are the, in this methodology, obviously whenever there's an auction, you would like to, or any of us most likely, we would like to game the system. And how can I get the most out of an auction? By manipulating the price. That's a key thing. Everybody tries to do it one way or another because you want to advantage yourself against others. Or you want to think that you're smarter than everybody else, right? One or the other. So bottom line, with this methodology, based on the game theory, you will be the best position if you put your real price that you would like to pay. That's very likely. If you put any price other than that, try to game the system or put like high quantities to move the market, you will not get what you want. Okay. Yeah, we can go to the next one.
Just,
you want to add?
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing. So what the algorithm encourages is essentially good behavior in terms of auction process. So, and the good behavior for an auction is for everyone to show their true intentions. And once it is exchanged, be a regret-free, that's the word I learned from Gun, I have to say it. So create a regret-free trade, basically. So what is a regret-free trade? You are trying to say, I'm going to pay at most 104, right? And then if you buy it at 98, you're golden, right? So you paid less than what you set out to do, and you don't have any regrets having that trade. So this is a key thing to ensure that everybody on the seller side or buyer side, once a trade is executed, has that kind of character, so they show their true intentions. So,
after we nail down the algorithm, what better way to test it out in a battle, in a gamified way, in the Fuji network, right? So that's what we decided. We minted some tokens, and we invited some people. So 600 people signed up, and we just set a very simple criteria. We said, all you have to do is match an order at the end of the auction. That's it. Just enter orders. You can cancel your orders, re-enter them. All you have to do is match it. And all the winners were like buyers and sellers. They were separated, like 5,000 on the buyer side and 5,000 reward pool on the seller side. So what happened? Out of 600, only 134 managed to match at the end of the auction. So, and the ones that really paid attention to the instructions, they quickly figured out. What do you think they did? They only needed to match. What price will you put? If you're a seller, you have to match. What price will you put? Lowest one.
exactly.
And if you're a buyer, what price would you put? Exactly. That's exactly what happened. The ones that they just put it, and then they won the price, right? That's it. And of course, we had to change it up ourselves for the second one.
So we have a theory, though. This ratio is eye-catching. Like, the rules were very simple, but only 134 people ended up winning something out of that 600, right? So, like, the outcome is very simple. People don't read instructions, period.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
So our aim was after this one, how do we scale down the instructions to the bare minimum, just a few things, so people actually at least catch a glimpse of it, right? So we did the second one.
Well,
This
we did
time,
the reverse. We put more.
2,500 people signed up for it. But in the previous one, there was a single pool, right? Everybody was trying to qualify for that. And the rule was just as long as you're in the matching range, you're winning something. But what it does, there is no competition, basically, right? So there is really no price war on that one. It's anybody entering at lowest price or highest price would win something. So then it really doesn't simulate the real world we are trying to simulate, right? So in this one, we tried to make it so that there is some sort of competition between the groups. So we divided up the reward pool into two, between seller group and buyer group, 50-50. And then, depending on how good they perform with respect to the others in that group, getting a better price compared to the others, then we scale the reward within that group according to that weighted average or weighted volume. We improved somewhat the absolute number, but the ratio is still 500, like 5 to 1 in the winners. I gave the answer already. So the price settled on the IDO price. There is, it's a learning process. It took us 3 times to get it right. Yeah. So essentially, although we created the competition, we created the competition within each group, basically. It's not group versus group, right? It's not sellers versus buyers. Sellers are competing within themselves, and buyers are competing within themselves. So therefore, as soon as we started the game, we realized this is not going to change the outcome of the price, honestly, right? So it's going to be around the IDO price, and it's exactly where it's settled. But still, only 1 out of 5 win something, because that's the people who read the instructions again.
So the third battle, yeah. So you probably, all of you heard zero-sum game. That's what Nihat was trying to also say, zero-sum game. So to make this in a true game theory, somebody has to lose to somebody else to win, right? You can't have it otherwise. Otherwise, there's not incentive. They're just going to be able, they're just going to do what's best within their own group. So in the third game, what we did, we said the pool is 10,000, but if the seller ends up, let's say, twice the ideal price, they get 75% of the pool, and vice versa. So this way, we kind of did the zero-sum game in this fashion. And the result, again, around 612 people won, and they were confused more than ever, I believe. So, and the sellers, actually, they won the 70%. Oh, Maureen. Hi. So we talked about you and David. All right, so these are our professors that advised us. Thank you very much. Would you please stand up? Please. Okay. So, yeah, the sellers won in the third battle, and they won about the 80-90% of the reward pool. So what we actually learned, other than that people don't read the instructions, this is a learning process. This is not just for us, but for the whole community. These type of auctions are happening in NASDAQ, opening auctions in the day, in the morning, and at the close. So this is happening. They are closed auctions. You don't really see the transparency that we are providing in here, but the bottom line is the same. So we think that this is going to be the default way that the IDOs are going to happen, the tokens are going to be listed in the future, because this is the fair way for discovering the price. And the other important thing that is important, the participation. The more participation we have, the better the price and the outcome will be. So again, it goes back to the community and learning how to really participate in the auction. And we are doing our part with anybody who is listing with us. First, we run some testnet battle, and we're going to have one this week. And we're going to have the real one next week. And this kind, everybody can be kind of learning how to enter orders, how to cancel them, how to adjust their positions, because our front end shows everything clearly, and you see what the auction price would be if we were to close the auction at that point. So you can adjust yourself. That concludes our
Just one more.
one more. And we would like to again thank Gün for his contributions and our professors, Maureen and David. And thank you again.
Thanks for your attention, and we are happy to answer questions you
Yeah.
might have.
Can you wait for this?
Just allow the microphone to come to you.
Yeah.
Actually, they asked us to announce that.
Hello, thank you very much for the presentation. What happens when a token is already listed on an AMM and they want to list also on Dexalot? So what kind of interactions do you expect, because the price there will be determined via a different mechanism.
So yeah, in our auction mechanism, we made sure that if they want to list with Dexalot Discovery, they cannot have the tokens released to anyone else. So we're partnering with Avalanche. We have a mechanism that they can deposit the Dexalot from Avalanche without really claiming. And if they claim to their wallet, they can open a pool. But they can.
If it's already,
It's already listed, then you can't really.
So-
this is not a real auction at that point.
let me add to that. So if it's already listed on an AMM, so if there is some sort of price action already happening, then this methodology is not
Yeah.
really good for that option. Right? So
I mean, we can list it as an order book and you can trade in Dexalot, but it is not an auction. This auction is specifically to discover the very first price that is fair to everyone, so that you don't see those graphs where it goes so high up and then people get wrecked and things like that. So we are trying to avoid that, basically.
here. Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes,
Can you
hear
raise your hand? Oh, Suleiman. Okay.
Yes. Auctions are a very important primitive in finance in general. I'm wondering, is anybody else working on something like this? And if so, what's the difference between what you guys are doing and what they are?
No, quite frankly. I mean, all based on what we have looked around, this is sort of like open, transparent auction on chain is first of its kind.
Yeah, we introduced
I'm
the
sure. I mean,
crypto world that
our
we
code
think-
is open source. I'm sure it will be available.
And just one
In
follow-up
due time.
question. As far as other assets that you could potentially list for auction, have you guys considered, for example, futures and options and other assets that expire?
Well, we have some unofficial thoughts about. We're thinking of that, but we are a US-based company at the end of the day, and any derivatives we have to abide by certain security rules. So that's why we're taking our time on that. And our priority, frankly, is going to be on the subnet. We're going to go on the subnet first, and then think about adding additional products.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got a question about the public that you aim at. For example, if I have an application-based token, so for example, I have a very specific, what I'm targeting is not traders, it's specific population that's going to use my token for a specific usage afterwards. Is that something I can use as well? Or because the public maybe would be different, because the public you're aiming with your mechanism is a public that has AVAX, I guess, whereas my public maybe not very fluent in AVAX ecosystem.
Well, we are an Avalanche, right? So it has to be in somewhere. It doesn't have to be listed against AVAX. It can be listed with anything else, like USDTE or something. And again, it goes back to the participation. How big is your community? If it's going to be 10 people, this is not going to work, right? This is like, you can manipulate it so quickly. But if there's like a couple of thousand, hopefully, yeah, that could work, right?
Is there a recommended size?
I'll say 1,000 at least. Yeah.
I mean, our game sizes seem to be working quite well. So
Yeah.
within that range seems to be. The other thing, just want to add to what Cengiz said. In the end, the project controls who has their tokens, right?
Yeah.
And essentially, who has the tokens has the power to sell, right? So therefore, there needs to be some sort of coordination to ensure there is no one breaking the basic rule set for this to work, right?
What were the figures for your own discovery of Avalanche?
We'll take your...
Wait your turn, 80.
Aggressive.
I just had a question about how you determine the market price at 98 with the example that you gave, because there are a whole host of other figures that the trade could have
Very
settled
good
at.
point.
97, 99, what have you. Is the idea to maximize the delta for both the sellers and the buyers? How do you arrive at 98?
Yeah. So we are actually constraining this problem by two things, right? Price and the quantity. So I guess we can think of it like you first, all the eligible sellers by price, you constrain them. Like these can only be the ones that can be matched, right? And here. And then you walk on the supply and demand curve. So you add 10, another 10, another 10, here 30, right? And then when you're at this point, you look at the prices. Oh, okay, so there is a 96 and a 100.
So you just pick the midpoint. In a
We
way.
picked the midpoint, but we were advised by our professors maybe we can have some different distribution in there, but we want to pick the simplest first. And as we progress, we can have different prices or different methodologies. But again, we don't want to answer too many questions. If you make it too complicated, then there's going to be too many questions coming with it. So this is easier to understand. This seems to be fair, right? So that was our conclusion.
Third dimension is people's ability to understand.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
exactly.
I got it, thanks.
Je-
So you actually had your first real auction on your own coin or on token, the Elot. So how were the figures for that? How many people contributed? How did the price turn out to be?
We were happy with the price because when I say that we didn't want our token to go to $15, okay, we didn't want that because we know when there is something goes up too fast, then it's going to come down at some point and it's going to crash and people are going to be unhappy. And we don't want that. We are in this for the long run. We want to put this for, and we want to provide this for everyone. You know, I'm sure we're going to have clones eventually, but we truly believe that this should be the way to go forward for any type of listing. And our numbers, we wanted more participation, and to be frank, we had about 600-700. We wanted more participation actually because that is like I keep saying the same thing, right? If you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, the more participation, the less likelihood of manipulation. Does that answer your question? Right.
Can you please share any information about the launch of the subnet? Any details like how can we join and some stuff like that, please?
I will get back to you after this, and I'll tell you what we're planning. But for this conference, maybe, yeah.
Here. Oh, sorry. It's okay.
I'll go. I'm going to get back to the price. I'm a bit stuck. So my understanding from this model is that the price is determined not by any underlying value, but by how well you follow the instructions. Did I miss something here?
No, the price is determined by people's willingness to buy it or sell it at their own price. So basically, we didn't tell this guy to enter at 104.
No,
He did it.
But the other guy entered the 1. Look.
Yes, and he
So-
said that I'm going to sell it no matter what. That's what it means. I don't care about the price. As long as this is 1, I'll sell it.
So a low sell price literally means almost like exactly what he said.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
want to
understand.
sell at any price. right?
Yeah.
So market, essentially.
He's just dumping, right? That's it.
Can we go to the next slide where you said in your first thing it was between 1 and 500, and I think you settled at 134
Yeah.
or something like this. Was it this? No.
Go 2 slides back, Cengiz.
2 slides back.
One,
No,
go back, go back,
yeah.
go back.
More?
Yeah, go back.
No. There was one where you did a real life thing and you said the price settled. I think.
Oh, I
on the-
see.
I think it
Oh,
was
sorry,
Testnet.
at 134 or 130 something like.
Oh,
this.
we didn't say the price. I don't remember.
It
saying
was
the price.
number of people.
Number of
Number of
people who
people.
won.
Oh, I see, okay.
So it wasn't about the.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, I got confused.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, are there any like assumptions, whether it be number of sellers or buyers participating, or like previous knowledge or coordination amongst buyers and sellers that kind of break down the kind of equilibrium price that people are bidding at?
So you mean that they are kind of acting in unison, try to manipulate? Is that what you're trying
kind
to
of
say?
like the way I'm interpreting this is almost it's like a algorithm, but people are by nature of the design of the game like they're bidding their kind of equilibrium pricing, but are there like any assumptions that would go in that could change that equilibrium pricing for
Well,
somebody?
our assumption again, I go back to saying participation.
no worries.
If it's like 10 people, that's going to be very easy to move this. But the more people that are attending and participating, then it's going to be very difficult. Even if you have big orders that you're trying to move, you're not going to be able to.
So there needs to be some prior work done until you come to this price discovery part. So you need to have a good distribution of the tokens to a good number of people, basically, right? So
Yeah. And there should
Thank
be
you.
enough buyers
Yeah.
out there. If the market is crashing, no matter what, nobody may want to buy it, right? Because they're like, I'm out of the crypto for 2 months.
I mean, even for testnet battles, we have a Telegram channel, and you would see a couple of guys coming in, trying to kind of coordinate the group, saying, "Hey, buyers, let's do this, let's do that." But even under those circumstances, it's difficult to coordinate 1,000
Yeah.
people. It just even in these 3 testnet battles, it didn't happen.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
everything
Thank
is transparent. I mean, it goes to the price manipulation technically. And yeah, we're not obviously policing price manipulation. We cannot. But people can track from the blockchain everybody's addresses if they are moving in a unison. There could be, I mean, it is, and people usually, like private investors, people track their addresses, right? If they are moving in a certain way, and that's going to create quite a FUD for the project.
Yes.
Hello, thanks for the talk. I was wondering how gas efficient is this when the number of participants increases?
For the gas, I mean, entering an order for this, from a user's perspective, if you're in the matching range and you don't have to change your order again, cancel it and put a better price, it is gas efficient. For us, as the project, we are doing the matching and we're paying the gas, so we're doing it anyway. So the project shouldn't be worrying about that part. But yeah, there is some cost to us, obviously.
Hi. Maybe I missed it. You might have mentioned it already. How does the exact time of matching defined? Is it based on an algorithm or a condition, preset condition?
Sure. I'm glad actually you asked.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the features that you kind of are happy about. It's like
Yeah.
anti-gaming,
Yeah.
anti. So, in a as Cengiz said, something like this is happening every day on the exchanges, right? So, but their advantage is that it's happening as in a blind auction. They indicate which side is having some imbalance, but not necessarily the individual orders and not the details you can get out of a blockchain. So when you do everything like this transparently, it becomes very difficult to keep things orderly and prevent people gaming and waiting for the last second that the auction is closing, right? So then you're setting out to solve the bot problem, and you create the bot problem with a different algorithm, basically.
Yeah.
So what we ended up coming up with is random closing. So say we are running this auction for 24 hours. 21st hour, our randomized closing period starts. And then we are using chain links functions to call randomized, random-based, basically coin flips, and say 2-3 coin flips coming true, closes the auction. So we did apply exactly the same logic on our token launch, and we didn't know when the auction was going to close. So can people still game? Yes, they can, but they will be taking a lot of risk, basically, right? Entering that big order that can swing the price can end up losing you quite a bit of money if the auction closes at that time. So that's how we did it. And it seems to be working.
Yeah, those coin flips are on chain, auditable, so it's not us deciding on certain things. It is, again, transparent.
Yes. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for the talk. This is obviously a mechanism that works really well for price discovery at the launch of a token. What about when during the life of the token, when some project do achieve some milestones? For example, we've seen some iteration where some insider trading, for example, element occurred and impacted the price massively of the token when the project achieves some milestones. Would that model be applicable to those events to prevent those kind of manipulation to happen? Or is it something that you're not working on from that model's perspective?
Well, that's like insider trading, right? Like, so why would the project put an auction to insider trade? But what they could do, they can maybe announce and say, hey, we want to move large amounts of our token, but we want to make it in a fair way. And why don't we make an auction for certain participants? I don't know. That could be possible. I mean, that's exactly what's happening in NASDAQ. Like I said, in the morning, institutions are like sending market on open, limit on open orders. There's a blind auction that happens. They stop their orders like 10 minutes before. They have more restrictions. We left all those restrictions out. But yeah, I could see some use case in there, but I'm not sure if that's going to be very beneficial.
It looks like they told us that.
Yeah.
One more?
One
There's
more.
one more question here. Here.
Yeah, hi guys. I was just wondering, how do you match the quantities and what does that take into account? Like what would stop me from basically holding both ends and just botting you for the highest buyer one quantity token to match price if I'm selling at higher quantities of tokens, so that would basically match my price at a higher amount even though I'm just botting myself higher with one quantities?
So, I mean, theoretically it's possible if there's one more time participation. Theoretically, it's going to be possible. But think about this way as well. At the very beginning, the token holders are just Avalanche people and private investors. So they are known in a way. So if you're a private investor, that you have enough token to move the market, not the Avalanche. They're the individuals, right? And if you do that from the sell side and the buy side, and there's not enough participations, technically, yes, you can. But also you're known, your address is known, you're doing that, the project and everyone is going to be extremely unhappy with you. So that's it's kind of like. But again, with the participation, even if you try, it's probably not going to work.
But even with these numbers, it becomes quite difficult to move the price. We did quite some testing actually, so no.
I mean, the number-wise, we're like throwing these like 1,000 people entering orders.
But there isn't like a set.
No.
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 Well, thank you very much for your
Thank you very
time
much.
and attention.
Thank you.